Hi, I hope you all are well. Today I'd like to address a specific issue, and that issue was raised when I saw a video on a famous Muslim apologist called Muhammad Hijab.
One of the most contested issues between Christianity and Islam is the crucifixion. The death of Jesus on the cross is taken by Christians as an almost indisputable fact of history. Yet, the Quran makes the bold claim that Jesus was not crucified. This is what the Quran says about the crucifixion.
وما قتلوه وما صلبوه ولكن شبه لهم وإن الذين اختلفوا فيه لفي شك منه ما لهم به من علم إلا اتباع الظن وما قتلوه يقينا بل رفعه الله إليه وكان الله عزيزا حكيما.
The issue is on the crucifixion of Jesus. The Quran attempts to rewrite history. And why I titled this way is because the Muslims believe something about history that is actually spoken of in the Quran. They're not actually looking at historians necessarily. They're looking at the Quran as their historic resource. Now, there's nothing wrong in using the Quran as a piece of history and a piece of literature. However, I think that when you use a document that speaks of history in the way the Quran does, I think that what is helpful then is to relate and compare what is spoken of in the Quran with actual historians. So in this video, what I'm going to address is the historic claim made by the Quran in Surah 4, verse 157 to 158. And another thing I would quickly also want to address is that the gentleman in the video begins the video by stating that it's Christianity that claims that the crucifixion is an undisputed fact. I'm going to deal with Surah 4, 157 and 58 and that statement simultaneously. Now, is the crucifixion of Jesus a Christian confession alone? And if it is, let's look at history. And on another note, is the Quran actually correct in asserting and claiming that Jesus himself was never crucified? So let's quickly look at it. Bart Ehrman, a skeptic of the Christian faith, somebody who is used by the Muslims widely and very regularly, is the one who actually in one of his blog posts, he writes that the crucifixion of Jesus is a virtual certainty, is one of those things that is difficult to dispute against. In another article and a blog post of Bart Ehrman, he writes this: the crucifixion of Jesus by the Romans is one of the most secure facts we have about his life. And this can be the name of the blog post is Why Was Jesus Crucified? Another non-Christian source and historian, first century historian, is Cornelius Tacitus. Now, this is a Roman non-Christian historian who writes and affirms and confirms the crucifixion of Jesus by the Romans. He was a Roman first century historian who's recording that his very people killed Jesus Christ on the cross. Another biblical scholar and a scholar of history is Seth Pace. He writes this in one of his responses on the issue: historians can assert with high level of confidence that Jesus was crucified because any contrary explanation for why there is a literary tradition about the crucifixion is inherently less plausible than the alternative. There is so much material, there is so much writing on the fact that Jesus had died and was crucified by the Romans, that to suggest that he was not is far less plausible. For anyone to suggest this is really, I think that one of the words that Seth Pace uses is an illiterate claim. And so what happens is that when you look at the fact that the gentleman in the video makes a claim that Christianity is making this claim, that Christians alone are making this claim that Jesus had died on the cross, I think that to suggest that is my encouragement to the gentleman in the video is kindly do a little bit more research on what historians are actually saying. I hear and I understand that the respective source, the Quranic, the Islamic source, the Quran, is making the claim that Jesus was never crucified. I understand that and I can respect that view. However, it would be helpful and very informative if we compare actual history with then religious texts. That helps greatly. And so what you have is historians disagreeing with the Quran. I'm not disagreeing necessarily at this stage, at least. Let me grant that. But historians themselves are disagreeing. Historians that Muslims themselves pay such high regard to. Bart Ehrman is regarded by the Muslim community. And so if he is, the very Bart Ehrman is actually saying that the crucifixion of Jesus by the Romans is one of the most secure facts we have about his life. So, my question then is the Quran attempting to rewrite history, while ignoring facts? I would suggest so. And I say this not necessarily with ill feelings toward Islam or Muslims or the Quran or whatever. It is from a factual point whereby the Quran got that wrong. And so the question then can also be further asked is that on one hand, you've got actual historic event backed by all of these historic records by historians. And then on the one hand, standing alone on an island all by itself is the Quran. That comes 6 centuries later to claim that Jesus was never crucified. Which is more plausible? In the words of Seth Pace, that to suggest anything else besides the fact that Jesus was crucified is far less plausible. Did the Quran get it right? I will leave that to my listeners in concluding that if you want to believe, and I can grant you can believe whatever you want, I don't really mind. It doesn't affect my life. But if you want to believe that the Quran in its lonely state of this proclamation that Jesus was never crucified, against all of these historic records and historians that suggest against the Quranic proclamation, if you want to believe that the Quran is right and everyone else in this world is wrong on what had happened in the past, that is for you to decide on. For me, I appreciate the Quranic literature. It is rich with an attempt to discovering also the history and the culture and how people thought in the past. However, I would lean on what actual historians, specifically even looking at Cornelius Tacitus, a man whose people themselves killed Jesus, and so he writes on the issue. I would rather believe them. My name is Shamul Khan, and I'll see you soon.